BLUELOCK's project has created several incredibly strong characters. Ranging in skills and talents, each player has fought hard to develop and hone these abilities to get to where they are now. But when you look at the abilities of all of those characters, where would you rank them based on overall ability? I did this a while ago, ranking all of the core characters from the first selection, and now it's time to rank the second. These characters consist of all of the ones I mentioned in the previous video, along with a whole new batch of characters. Those being Rin, Aryu, Tokimitsu, Naruhaya, Hiori, Hiiragi, Shido, Karasu, Otoya, Aiki, and Kiyora. Now I know that Ego did rank all of these characters himself, however I'm doing it just because I can. Not to mention those rankings also included his own personal biases, so I'm going to be ranking these players with an inclusion of mine. Before getting into this video though, I do want to mention my Discord server, that being the new Egoist Geeks. Myself and other BLUELOCK content creators host not only Discord exclusive events, but also actively engage with our community. If that's something that interests you, you can click the link down below to join and become a part of that community. And like in all of my videos, I want to mention that this video will contain spoilers for both the main story up to the end of the second selection, as well as the episode Nagi's side story, so if you wish to not be spoiled, I would suggest you click off this video right now. Also, the last announcement I have to make is that we are currently making some progress on the new Gen 11 movie. However, we are looking for some animators, some storyboarders, some artists, some background artists, and in-betweeners. So if you are skilled in any of those areas, please reach out to me via Discord or Instagram or email, and we'll see if we can get you on the team. And if you want to show your support, you can either donate by giving a super chat to this video with the tagline of BLUELOCK New Gen 11 Movie, or you can send a Cash App donation to the Cash App shown here with that same tagline. But again though, please don't feel obligated to donate. As much as we would appreciate it, you guys don't have to do that. All we ask for is your patience and support on this project. Alright, let's get into the video. Looking at the lowest characters on the list, the only reason that they do exist here is because they were included in the first video. Those characters being Hibiki Ogawa in 26th place and Kisuke Wanima in 25th place. Despite them scoring several goals during the first selection due to them not surviving, I really can't place them above any other characters on this list. And I know that these characters still had goals that should place them higher, but again, first selection goals as compared to second selection performances, I hope you can get what I mean. With that being said, the last of the characters who really had no performance in the second selection, that being Wataru Kuon in 24th place. Kuon's main weapon is his jumping ability, and yet despite this, he still wasn't able to jump his way into a higher spot. He also wasn't able to weasel his way in either. Kuon was shown in an additional time to have survived the 100 goals challenge, which I can say is at least, I don't know, acceptable. But when teaming up with Imamura and Iemon, he likely had no feats to keep him in the selection. I mean, you teamed up with the worst player on Team Z and the fucking goalkeeper. What did you think was gonna happen? Next up on our list, we have the guy who could not adapt to survive and does not have the striker mentality, that being Asahi Naruhaya in 23rd place. During the second selection, Naruhaya chose to team up with Barou, which by the way, Kuon, that's how you pick your fucking teammates. You chose Imamura while Naruhaya chose Giga Chad made Barou. It's just a skill issue, buddy. But anyways, aside from just teaming with Barou, Naruhaya was the support player for him and his style of play. Acting as a passing merchant, he totaled up at least 3 assists that we know of. And given the fact that Barou had scored 8 goals total in those 2 matches, it would stand to reason that Naruhaya had at least 1 more assist. So a minimum of 4 assists, that is not a bad total for the second selection. Not to mention for the majority of the 2v2 match, Naruhaya was straight bullying Isagi because bro forgot about his spatial awareness as soon as he unlocked his direct shot, which, come on Isagi, what the hell. But overall, his shooting is still total dog shit, and being eliminated in the second stage is enough to hold him back from making it up any further on the list. Coming in 22nd place, we have the player who I personally believe should not still be here, and has coasted his way to the current point in the story by the way of luck. We have the God Monk of BLUELOCK, that being Igarashi Gurimu, aka Igaguri. Now while you can argue that Naruhaya should be above Igaguri, against my better judgment, I have to defend the monk a little bit. While Naruhaya did act as an assist merchant for the king himself, the monk was actively able to create a weapon that allows for his team to have the advantage. Not to mention, he teamed up with the previous number 2 in BLUELOCK prior to the current arcs, which at this point, his weapon was enough to draw fouls off of players like Reo, players with extreme dexterity and body balance. Plus his ability to utilize luck allowed him to survive almost 200 chapters later into the story, and even allow him to be useful in those events. Which I know we shouldn't be considering the events of the NEL, but like, my man's really knows how to use luck. But that's just my reasoning as to why I believe that Igaguri should be above Naruhaya, but he's still ass. Sorry, I really just couldn't defend the monk anymore. I felt like Trishula trying to support me. It just hurts too much. Following the monk, we have a player who used to exist as a duo, but now resides as a solo sibling, ranking 21. On our list, we have Junichi Wanima. Now for Wanima, we have to do a little bit of speculation as to why he would be above Igaguri, considering he has really no second selection feats. What we do know is that his team was able to complete the second selection before Ikiguri's team, despite them having Corona and Shido and Reo on their team. When looking at speculation, we do know his previous weapon was eye contact, which relied heavily on his brother to make it effective. However, with his brother being disqualified after the first selection, he likely would have had to develop a new weapon to enhance his overall physical abilities in order to stay in the project. That, coupled with my statement of him having the better shooting of the two brothers, which I mentioned in the first video, I think it's fair to conclude that he should be above Ikiguri. Next up, we have the last of the players existing in the 20s, that being Iki Nico. Now, Nico is a player who honestly didn't do a lot in the second selection. The only real feats we have for Nico were in the 3v3 match against Nagi, Barou, and Chigiri, and even in that match he didn't do much. We see in the first selection that Nico was the strategist and tactician of the team prior to his loss to Isagi, where he then became the top goal scorer. However, in the second selection, he resides as neither of those roles. On his team with Hiiragi, Nico didn't score a single goal, nor was he the team strategist. All he did was blissfully fill the role he was assigned to do, the same way that Okawa was for him not too long ago. I think it is fair to conclude that he is above the rest of the characters that we mentioned, given previous feats and abilities that we know he does possess at this point. Not to mention, he and Hiiragi were on separate teams leading after the second selection, meaning Hiiragi and Nico won their next game, lost another, and either Hiiragi got stolen and Nico clawed his way up, or Nico was designated as the more valuable player. There isn't much to go off of, but from what we have seen, Nico's performance is just disappointing. I mean, he declared that he was going to get stronger, and even Isagi said that Nico gets stronger after a loss. And yet his second selection performances show him doing absolutely jack in the two roles that he's played so far in the series. His physical specs are not as good as Zantetsu's, and his game IQ and information processing isn't as good as Hiiragi's, so I unfortunately do have to put Nico this low on the list, given his incredibly underwhelming performance. Coming in at the start of our 10s list, we have two characters from the original Team Z roster, that being Raichi in 19th and Gagamaru in 18th. Now, like Junichi Wanima, another character who teamed up with them, we really have no feats to conclude anything about Gagamaru or Raichi's performances in the second selection. We do know that they were the 6th team to pass, which I believe is the team just after Nico's. However, my reasoning for ranking them above Nico comes from my previous video. In my last ranking of these characters, I ranked Gagamaru and Raichi above Nico, and given Nico's performances and feats, I don't think that he would be above Gagamaru or Raichi now. So for this anticlimactic and frankly biased reasoning, I'm putting Raichi and Gagamaru above Nico. As for why Gagamaru is above Raichi, Gagamaru scored a goal and he made several solid offensive plays. You can argue for either of these characters to be switched, but I personally think that this order is the best. Coming in at 17th on our ranking, we have a background character who's recently been shown some love thanks to the episode Nagi manga, that being Aiki Himizu. Aiki is one of the newest characters who have some content during the episode Nagi side manga, teaming up with Karasu, Otoya, and Kiyora against Nagi, Barou, Chigiri, and Zantetsu. We learn from these moments in the story that Aiki is incredibly good at sensing deception, and it allows him to make accurate predictions as to how others will play. These insights into their true nature make him an incredible feinter, seen with him not only being able to sense Chigiri's stamina and leg injury, but also easily beat him in a one-on-one. Beating Chigiri in a one-on-one is not an easy feat, as even players like Bachira had a difficult time doing it, given with how annoying his sprints can be. While I don't think that Aiki is an incredibly good player, I can admit when he's got some mad skills. Following Aiki in 16th place, we have another character who's been recently shown some love in the episode Nagi side manga, that being Tsurugi Zantetsu. Zantetsu was a player who, if not for episode Nagi, would not have been given any attention until the most recent match in the current storyline. However, thanks to it, we do have some information on his performances. During the 3v3 match against Nagi's team, Zantetsu was used as a focal point with shutting down not only Chigiri, but also Barou, as his speed was able to contain Chigiri and outplay Barou given the special circumstances. And with Chigiri's assistance in creating a dual speedster chemical reaction, they were able to easily break through the opposing team in the 4v4 match. In comparison to other players and other speedsters like Chigiri, there are some ways to combat his speed and eliminate his effectiveness, as seen with the defensive plays by Karasu and the style changes from Barou. Overall though, I don't think that Zantetsu is necessarily a bad player, I just think that there are other characters who have performed better during the second selection. Following our speeding idiot, we have a character who I personally disliked for a lot of this series, despite us sharing a similarity. In 15th place, we have the shorty of BLUELOCK, that being Kiyora Jin. Aside from the most recent arc, Kiyora has also been given some playtime during the second selection, facing off against Nagi. Excluding the official match itself, Kiyora was shown to be able to defeat Nagi in a one-on-one. This same Nagi being arguably one of the best Nagis shown with his display of individualized thinking and autonomy. By utilizing his incredibly small stature and talented full body control, he's able to utilize this frame to defeat those whose physique or height outclass him. He was not only to display incredible dribbling technique and speed, but he was also able to bait and beat Barou in a 2v1, sending a pass to Aiki on the opposing side of the pitch. Along with his balance, he's also able to create shots that provide an accelerating or decelerating factor depending on the use of his spin. These shots throw off the defenders and goalkeepers' timing, allowing for him to be more effective on the pitch. Overall, Kiyora is a player that I would put in the very middle of the ranking if I could, given with how consistent he's been during during this selection. However, like Zantetsu, I can't reasonably put him any higher given the other players on this list. Following our tiny striker in Kiyora, we have a player who boasts power through his incredible physique, that being Rensuke Kunigami in 14th place. Kunigami is a character that unfortunately has to be ranked so low on this list, despite him essentially being a part of the main cast for the majority of the first season of the anime. During the 3v3 match against Isagi's team, Kunigami had three main roles. His first use was to contain Barou, the most physically powerful player on Isagi's team. With his use of the anti-Barou defense, Kunigami was effectively able to reduce Barou's usage for Team White for the entirety of the game prior to his awakening. His second use was to be used as bait for Chigiri. We've seen that Kunigami's presence alone is enough to distract an opposing team, especially given Barou's selfish nature, making him an even bigger threat. By using his physique as bait, he can draw attention away from Chigiri, allowing for him to utilize his speed to score goals. And his final use was to be a goal poacher. In situations where there is a loose ball in front of the net, Kunigami can use his physique to force his way towards it and deliver a powerful impact that allows him to score. Because his physique is used as bait, the instances where it isn't bait is just as dangerous, given that even Barou couldn't hold him back. The main reason that I have him ranked so low on this list comes from the fact that his physique and playstyle weren't enough to be considered the main attacking point, as seen with Team Red agreeing that Chigiri's speed is the best offensive weapon that they have. In the instances where his playstyle is good, that only happens with a tactician like Reo who can utilize it. However, if this is the only offensive weapon that you have on your team, it can get severely outclassed. This was seen with Shido, who not only boasts a physique strong enough to compete with and even surpass Kunigami, but also has the speed to move around the pitch very easily. These factors, along with him not being chosen by Shido, are the main reasons that I have him ranked so low on this list. Starting at the bottom of the top half of our list, we have a player whose playstyle reflects both Nagi and Isagi's put together. In 13th place with the fortune-telling trapper himself, that being Reiji Hiiragi. Hiiragi, despite being nothing but a background character in the main story, has been given some attention in the episode Nagi's side story, as are a lot of these characters now that I'm realizing. Hiiragi, as I've stated, has a playstyle that combines both Nagi and Isagi's, with some slight variations. While Isagi's playstyle revolves around observing things about players during the game, Hiiragi creates strategies and tactics based off of pre-concluded data on the players that he faces off against. And while Nagi's weapon revolves around muscular cushioning, which forms his trapping, Hiiragi's trapping is more related to the redirection of energy. Hiiragi can't trap the ball in the same way that Nagi can with his black hole takedown. Rather, Hiiragi's traps redirect the energy of the ball in the direction that he wants to move towards, also known as mobile trapping. We see from the match against Nagi's team in the 3v3 that he's created strategies to nullify the weapons of his opponents, using Zantetsu and Nico to contain Chigiri's speed, using Zantetsu's acceleration to turn Barou's physical charge ability into a speed battle, and his own mobile trapping to keep Nagi moving, keeping his playstyle reactive. Even after his plans begin falling apart, Hiiragi is still able to break past both Chigiri and Barou due to his mobile traps and balance. The reason that I rank him lower than other tacticians like Reo or Isagi is because his data is only created on the plays and performances of the players prior to their current match. We see in Blue Lock that evolutions of players happen during the games at the most intense moments, so data collected on their previous selves isn't something that you can always rely on. Because of this, his strategies become ineffective given a situation where the opposing team begins to evolve, and this is why I have him ranked where he's at. Following the fortune teller tactician, we have the one that specializes in dexterity above all else. In 12th place, we have Mikage Reo. During the first selection ranking, I had Reo ranked at 4th, and while Reo is still objectively a really good character, his skills were really outshined by his opponents and other allies. During the 3v3 match, he acted as the anchor for his team, being able to effectively utilize Chigiri's speed as well as Kunigami's physique, and boasting overall average numbers across the board, Reo has still managed to be an insanely decent player. In terms of overall athletic capabilities, he surpassed even that of Isagi, identifying that and choosing to attack Isagi directly. He was also the deciding factor when stealing the ball from players like Barou, as a double press would leave him unable to do anything. During the 2v2 match against Shido, Reo's dexterity was also considered to be the more valuable of the weapons, leading him to being chosen by Shido. Also, while this isn't confirmed, it's likely to conclude that Reo was the one who helped Shido in scoring against the World 5, seeing as Shido's playstyle revolves around receiving a pass, and with Reo's dexterity allowing him to send accurate and clean passes to his teammates, it seems to reason that he would be the deciding factor in that goal. When looking at Reo overall, he definitely isn't that bad of a player, but he is severely outclassed in terms of game IQ when facing Isagi, and was insanely outclassed when it came to the physical stats by Shido. Next up on our list, we have the man of both style and glam, and could be given the nickname of Daddy Longlegs, that being Aryu Jyubei in 11th. Aryu's physical abilities and god-given physical stature are why he's ranked so high. Being one of the tallest players in Blue Lock at 6'5" and possessing not only the jumping power to reach aerial passes sent to Nagi, but also being able to utilize his long limbs to steal the ball while delivering a powerful shot towards the net, makes him him an incredible threat. We've seen that even players like Chigiri are forced to mark him, seeing as his long limbs can counter the majority of opposing weapons placed against him. And like I've stated before, his jumping and long limbs allow for a significant advantage when it comes to stealing or keeping possession. And for his chemical reaction with Bachira, he was able to draw out the fullest potential of his ability, scoring a goal that was unstoppable by the opposing team. Oh yeah, and he was the second person to complete the 100 goals challenge, which while Bachira does say doesn't determine their skill, I still think is worth noting. Before getting into the top 10 of our list, if you are enjoying this video, leave a like and subscribe down below to see more awesome Blue Lock content just like this. Starting the top 10, we have a player who, despite their weak mindset, boasts an incredibly powerful physique. The former number 3 in Blue Lock, that being Aoshi Tokimitsu. Now I have Tokimitsu ranked above Aryu for several reasons. First off, while Tokimitsu was ranked below Aryu in the 100 goals challenge, and despite him not scoring a goal in the 4v4 match, I still think that Tokimitsu was utilized better during this selection. Tokimitsu's physique at this point was one of the strongest in the series, being able to completely outmuscle Barou on numerous occasions. When looking at the 3v3, his incredible control over his muscular frame allows him to keep up with Bachira, beating the dribbler in a one-on-one. Even Isagi declared that the only way to stop him was through a foul, but due to his incredible muscular density, he was able to steamroll past Isagi, ensuring a foul wasn't drawn and a goal was still scored. Towards the end of the 4v4 match, we see that even despite Chigiri running low on steam, his speed was still able to mitigate Aryu's reach. However, with Tokimitsu, he was considered to be the only one to be able to move at 100% efficiency at that point in the game. Even Rin wasn't able to move at 100% efficiency at that time, which is why he used Tokimitsu to hold up the ball while he adjusted his position. All in all, despite the fact that he didn't score a goal in the 4v4 match, I still think his overall performances rank him above Aryu, especially in comparison of the matchups. Coming in 9th place, we have Blue Lock Shadow Striker and Personal Air Horn. We have Otoya. Now Otoya is a player who many people know that I personally don't like very much, but despite this, I cannot deny that he's got some really good performances in the second selection. We see that Otoya's style doesn't necessarily rely solely on the blind spots of opponents, and rather functions by using the blind spots on the pitch instead. This was shown with Otoya using Himizu as bait to steal the ball, allowing for him to reside in the less important spots of the field before coming in to steal it. His off-the-ball movements are also incredibly high, allowing him to easily weave between and shake off marks of players like Barou and Chigiri. Because of this, he can easily get himself in the perfect spot to score a goal from, as it is hard to keep the pressure on him. It also allows him to excel at stealing balls, as he can easily approach from a spot the opponents weren't expecting, allowing for a quick change of pace. Otoya's individualized abilities are very basic when you consider them at face value. However, once teamed up with someone like Karasu who can use them to their fullest extent, they become a deadly duo. Now following the Shadow Striker, we have one that boasts an alternative kind of speed, a player who I consider to be my favorite character. In 8th place, we have Chigiri Hyoma. When looking at the key players in the second selection, to say that Chigiri isn't one of them is an incredibly incorrect statement. Chigiri's speed was not only the main attacking weapon in the 3v3 match against Isagi, but it was also the weapon that would allow for Isagi's team to stand a fighting chance against Rin. During the match against Rin, Chigiri's speed not only allowed for Aryu's long reach to be limited in its effectiveness, but also allowed for Isagi to keep up with Rin's movements and thought process due to constant pressing. Looking at the episode Nagi manga during the 3v3 match against Hiiragi, Chigiri's weapon was arguably the most deadly, shown with him needing to be double pressed for containment, as well as his chemical reaction with Barou. In the 4v4 match against Kiyora's team, Chigiri and Zantetsu's double speed chemical reaction was incredibly difficult to combat, leading the opposing team to readjust their entire formation to account for it. This is even further proven by Aiki's extortion of Chigiri's injury, being that was one of the only possibilities when it came to eliminating his effectiveness on the pitch. Chigiri by far is one of the best and least appreciated characters in the series, and with his incredible speed, he deserves to be this high on the list. The next up on our list, we have a character who I'm assuming you've heard Raven joke about me liking. That character, ranked number 7, is Karasu Tabito. Now Karasu is a character who we only started seeing perform in the 3rd selection. However, in the recent 4v4 match in the episode Nagi's side story, we do get to see a little bit of his performances. We saw that at the start of the match, he utilizes his pressing to contain Barou in his shot course, allowing for Kiyora to come in and stop it. Now you can say that Karasu wouldn't have been able to stop Barou, which is why he decided to restrict his shot course instead, but that's simply for you to debate. We then got to see his assassin style ball keeping, allowing for him to break past Nagi. He also contributed an assist to Otoya by keeping the opponents from stealing the ball, and by using his assassin style as a staller, he allows for players like Otoya to come in and steal the ball, as they hesitate to get close given his style of play. As of now, that's all we really know about from Karasu from the episode Nagi's side manga. However, it is likely to conclude that he will score a goal himself, or he's going to assist another player in doing so. Personally, this isn't my cup of tea, praising Karasu and all, but like Otoya, I can admit when the player is very good, and Karasu at this point in the series is definitely very good. Now before getting into our top 5, we should mention the character who just barely didn't make the cut, that player being the main character of Blue Lock, Yoichi Isagi. Yoichi Isagi at the start of the second selection to the end of the second selection are two completely different characters. Starting off at the second selection, Isagi isn't a very good player. He was too focused on his direct shooting weapon as opposed to his original spatial awareness weapon, and became too fixated on scoring rather than viewing the field. However, thanks to Naruhaya sparking his evolution, Isagi was able to awaken his greatest ability, being his natural adaptability. By being able to emulate Naruhaya's footwork, it allowed for him to beat Barou in an off-the-ball battle, leading him to score. Aside from scoring the final goal of that match, he did contribute several assists. However, I wouldn't say that they're very much of value. Going into the 3v3 match, he not only was able to basically 2v3 Team Red with Nagi's support, but he was also able to form numerous chemical reactions with Nagi, devour Barou and use him as bait, and also form a chemical reaction from him as well. Barou, by the way, being one of the characters with the greatest egos and mindsets in the entire series. This forced chemical reaction resulted in Barou's awakening, leading them to winning the game. Aside from those factors, he also started manipulating the field into situations that would allow for his team to succeed, as seen with him baiting Reo into sending his pass to Chigiri. Going into the 4v4 match, Isagi was able to use his eyes and brain to predict Bachira's movements, and also create plays that let his teammates shine as well. His most notable performances during that game was his direct back heel shot, which surpassed the predictions and vision of Rin, as well as stopping Bachira's final action of his awakening. Going into the World 5 match, which I still personally consider to be a part of the second selection, Isagi's movements were used as bait to allow for Rin to score. You can say that this isn't very, but I would consider it more along the lines of Isagi's positioning was good enough to be considered a possible scoring option even against the World 5 players, but that's just how I look at it. Overall, Isagi's performance was slightly better than it was during the first selection, and it's pretty fair to put him at this point in our ranking. Starting the top 5, we have a player who, as far as I'm aware, is the top goal scorer in the project, that being Barou Shoei in 5th. Like I've said, Barou is the top goal scorer in the entire series. Not counting the episode Nagi manga, Barou scored a total of 10 goals during the second selection, and with his previous 10 goals in the first selection, that places him at 20 goals total at this point in the series. And in the episode Nagi side story, as of chapter 27, he has scored 3 more goals, giving him 23 goals total so far. That's also not including his 2 confirmed assists in the series. Overall, Barou's performance was incredible. It carried him in the 2v2 match, and even in the 3v3 match, his awakening was the deciding factor of the game. And looking at the 4v4 against Rin, Barou's villainous style of soccer was something that not even Rin could predict, leading Barou not only to scoring, but also forcing Rin to play more drastically. These factors eventually led Isagi to having more options, letting him rival Rin for a few moments. Looking at the 3v3 match against Hiiragi's team, Barou and Shigiri's Beast Rush combo led them to breaking away and evolving, letting them surpass Hiiragi's plans. And by following this strategy, led him to scoring 2 goals in that game. In the 4v4 against Karasu, I mentioned that Karasu had failed to stop Barou from shooting, but again, you could argue whether or not Karasu would have been able to do this either way. Not even from a gameplay aspect, but Barou's mentality is such a huge factor for morale during the 4v4 game. His speech gave Team White a new frame of mind when challenging Team Red, and even convinced players like Chigiri and Nagi to work under him, leading Barou to score a goal that, while uncool, will lead them to victory. Barou is one of the best players in the second selection, and even during the moments of rest, he still remains the GOAT. Now coming in 4th place, we have a player that you could argue that should be moved up to 3rd, that being the elastic dribbler himself and the man I'm repping on my shirt right now, Meguru Bachira. Bachira's dribbling and passing in the original 3v3 match against Rin was the factor that led Nagi and Isagi each to scoring a goal. His individualized abilities far surpassed Nagi and Isagi in a one-on-one situation, as his dribbling and passing allowed for him to not only act as an anchor, but also as another attacker. This led him to being chosen by Aryu and Tokimitsu, as his weapons would allow for their plays to elevate. Going into the 4v4, Bachira's performance may not have been spectacular in the middle of the game, but he was able to spark a chemical reaction in the beginning with Aryu, as well as link up with players like Rin with ease. And at the end of the game, his awakening allowed for him to perform 3 triple nutmegs, as well as dribble past a tri-press of Nagi, Chigiri, and Barou. He was even able to break away from Nagi, who attempted to foul him. If not for Isagi's understanding of Bachira as a person and a player, he likely would have scored, leading Team Red to victory, which they did anyways, but not the point. And going into the World 5 match, Bachira was also the only player to be a World 5 member in a one-on-one, breaking past Cavazos with his egotistical elastic dribbling. He also got the assist to Rin, who scored during that match as well. Bachira's performance in the second selection should not be underestimated, and despite him flopping a little bit during the 4v4 match, you can't disregard the rest of the stuff that he did during that selection. Coming in 3rd place, we have the secondary main character of the series and a personal fan favorite. We have the genius and prodigy of death, that being Nagi Seishiro. But like I said, you can argue that Bachira should be above Nagi, but I think because of the episode Nagi side manga, we should consider Nagi to be above him. Nagi in the main storyline was the attacker in the 2v2 match against Barou, as Nagi was able to keep Barou at a standstill in terms of offensive and defensive plays. During the 3v3, he and Isagi were able to create a chemical reaction that surpassed the abilities of Reo and Chigiri, allowing for him to score. And during the 4v4, Nagi was able to beat Rin by creating his 2-stage fake volley. But when looking at the episode Nagi manga, this is where his abilities shine the most. We saw snippets of it in the main storyline where Nagi actively creates his own plays. This was shown with him creating his godlike dribbling to defeat Barou, and him creating his 2-stage fake volley to defeat Rin. But in the episode Nagi manga, after facing off against Hiiragi, Nagi is actively beginning to train and think for himself, creating and completely completing plays on his own. Through his game with Hiiragi, Nagi was able to create his jumping turn trap shot, which we see later in the series. But he was also able to play more logically and tactically, creating his hand spin breakdance shot due to him anticipating Karasu's press. Overall, Nagi's performances when he creates and executes plays on his own far surpass anything he's done with Isagi or Reo, and for this reason I do have him ranked above Bachira. I mean, a motivating, self-developing, and evolving Nagi, of course I'm going to rank him in the top 3. But coming in second place, we have a player who held that title at this point in the series. We have the demon of BLUELOCK, Shido Ryusei. Now, Shido only had one game during the second selection as of the main story. However, it's not hard to conclude that he deserves the title of second best in BLUELOCK at this time. The majority of Shido's plays are mostly found on other characters' experiences or statements, but it's not hard to argue that he deserves the number 2 spot. Shido apparently was considered to be the top goal scorer of one of the other stardums in the BLUELOCK project, as stated in the episode Nagi's side story. During that low match, despite being on a team with Ikigure, he was still able to embarrass both Ryo and Kunigami with relative ease. I mean, we saw how difficult it was for Barou to be able to outmuscle Kunigami. Shido was able to both outmuscle and outspeed him as well. His insane physicality and flexibility let him play in a way that is unpredictable by both Kunigami and Ryo at this point, and it gives him a style that thrives off of intuition. We also know that according to Ego, Shido is a player whose abilities are only second to Itoshi Rin, as he was also able to score against the World 5. Now, given his style of play, he couldn't have done it alone. However, it is clear that Shido's scoring does contribute to his overall value as a player. I can't really see anyone disagreeing with me saying that Shido deserves to be in the number 2 spot at this point in the project, as no other character, not even an awakened Nagi, could match him at this point. But remember how I said that Shido was only second to Itoshi Rin? Well, that's because in first place we have the best player in the BLUELOCK project as of the second selection, that being Itoshi Rin. I really don't think I need to argue that Rin is the best player in the BLUELOCK project as of the second selection. I mean, not only was he able to perform shooting feats that surpassed Barou, prediction plays that surpassed Isagi, and technical plays that surpassed Nagi, but he was also able to score against the World 5, the same as Shido. All of his physical, mental, and tactical abilities far surpass any of the other BLUELOCKers in the project. The thing that I believe sets Rin above Shido as the best player is that not only can he score goals as one of the best strikers, but he can also build and create plays through the use of his vision and brain. That's simply something that Shido can't do. And because of these factors, I consider Itoshi Rin to be the best BLUELOCKer in the project as of the end of the second selection. But that was my personal ranking of the BLUELOCKers during the second selection. I hope you guys did enjoy this video and will leave me your thoughts down below in the comment section. I do want to remind everyone that this video is based off my own personal bias and feats from the manga. This isn't off of Ego's ranking, this is off of my own personal ranking from what we've seen. But again, I hope you guys did enjoy this video and will continue to enjoy it in the future. For the question of the video, which play during the second selection was your favorite? It can be from any player during the second selection, main story, or episode Nagi manga. Leave me your thoughts down below in the comment section. And like always, thank you all for watching, like and subscribe to see more awesome BLUELOCK content just like this.